Hello, hello. Let me see if this is working the way that I want it to. Make sure that it connects. Looks like I'm checking it out on YouTube and I'm seeing an ad. So let's see if this came through for us. Hopefully it did, and it did. Fantastic. All right, so I am a monitor short today. I went to pull out my handy dandy side monitor here that I like to use to have multiple screens going and found out I don't have the cable for it. So I'm thinking I left it in New York on a ship. I don't know where the cable's at. But I turned the place upside down. There is no cable that will handle video in this house. So I do not have that going. Hey, Tony. Hey, Sarah. Hope you all are doing well. So it is a rainy day here in Miami. I am at home this weekend. You all may know or remember that I don't actually cruise a lot in the summer months, mainly because my full-time job is seasonal, I say, and so it picks up a lot in June and July, and so it pulls me away from cruise ships. So I am not on ships right now. I'm here in Miami during our Caribbean tropical season, and I've never seen it rain as hard as it just did with winds and all that great stuff. It has been interesting. So let me see. Who all do we have here? Say hello if you would in the comment section and where you're from. I always love knowing if people are tuning in. You know, being weekend cruisers, I assume most of us probably are in Florida somewhere, easy access to the port. But we've got George from Argentina. Hey, George, thank you for tuning in. And Meredith, you must be sitting side by side. I love it. So thank you both for tuning in. Those are some of my Argentinian followers. And actually, when I went down for my cruise out of Buenos Aires, Argentina, we got to have dinner together. So always some special memories. Or Meredith, I am getting my people confused. Sorry, George, you are not married to Meredith. Meredith Mayer, hi from Texas. Yes, I know. Now that I've read the full name, I get it. I need more coffee apparently. I had a Monster Energy drink before this, but we'll jump on into it. Oh, and I'm hitting all sorts of random buttons. Perfect. All right, well, let me start off with Happy Father's Day. So it is Father's Day here in the U.S., and so we are celebrating Father's Day. And so as you all know, this is the first Father's Day without my father. And so I have resigned myself, or I have talked myself into, I guess, admitting that it's still a happy Father's Day. I think I struggled with the terminology a lot when Father's Day started coming around. But I have been very fortunate to have a wonderful father. And so it is truly a happy Father's Day. This is certainly the first one without my father, but it is still a wonderful day because I get to think of and remember my father. So thank you all for sharing this moment with me. Another reason why I chose to do it, and I almost didn't do this, I haven't chatted with you all in a hot moment, and I missed coming on and having these live conversations. And so I said, oh, well, let me do one Sunday. And then I went, oh, that's Father's Day. I don't know if I want to do it on Father's Day. But then I remembered, something my father told me a while ago was, and hopefully a lot of you feel a similar way, is that by having these videos and doing these live streams, to everyone, including my father and my mother, they feel like I'm in the room with them, like I'm talking to them. And so it was a really neat way for us to bond. So if he was still here, I would absolutely be doing this live so that I could say Happy Father's Day to him with all of you. So I decided to keep it, and I think that that was a good decision. But Happy Father's Day to everyone out there. I will quickly talk about some of the struggle with Father's Day, though, is, I was not prepared, I don't think, for the number of ads, push notifications that I'm getting on my phone. So, I mean, for those people that don't know when Father's Day is, I used to always find out from the church bulletin that it was coming up. But these days, it's push notifications from Amazon, from all sorts of places, constantly reminding me about Father's Day. And I don't think I was necessarily mentally prepared for all of that. But as I mentioned, I quickly got on board and said, you know what? It is still a Happy Father's Day. So we're going to make it that. And so Happy Father's Day to everyone on the call. I say call, you can tell what I do for a living sometimes on the live stream. This is not a conference call. Hey, Minnie J, glad you could make it. I know it's probably late for you. Hey there, Bill from Baltimore. Eduardo, going on Virgin for your first time. That's awesome. I just got back. If you are loyal to Royal, it is okay. I've learned that, both of them are a great experience. So I totally get that. The best thing that you need to do, watch my prior video, I think it was like 3 videos ago, on make your dinner reservations and your show reservations ASAP before you go on a Virgin Voyages cruise. That is crucial, I think, to the success. People will tell you that once you get there, you can talk to the maitre d' on Virgin. Well, let me take a step back. For those of you who do not know Virgin Voyages, they take a different perspective to dining. They do not have the main dining room where you get a 5:15 or an 8 p.m. kind of seating and you just show up every night to your assigned table. They have multiple restaurants that you need to make reservations to. They do not have a main dining room. And so if you don't have reservations to those places, and they sell out because I don't think that they quite understood how many people were going to be on the ship. Anyway, I think that they just totally missed the boat on that. But they do fill up. And so if you don't have a reservation, you're going to have to go and talk to the maitre d' and just, I say, play the game. You're going to have to be nice and see when they can squeeze you in. And oftentimes you're going to wind up getting the amazing, 5 p.m. dinner as soon as they open, or you're going to be invited back at 10 o'clock. Or you might just be turned away and they would tell you they cannot accommodate you. So make sure that 45 days out, you are making those reservations and you will have an awesome time on Virgin Voyages. Hey, Lucy's mom. Do you take your father to cruises? I did take my father on cruises. So one of his lifelong dreams was to go to Alaska. And it wasn't necessarily on a cruise. That was my idea. He just wanted to go to Alaska. He'd always been fascinated with it, the nature and the beauty of it. And so we were able to go to Alaska, which was his favorite trip. He talked about that for years to come, but we had such a good time. It was him, my mom, and just me staying in a grand suite. So a wonderful setup. I think I got a really good deal on that grand suite too. But we had an awesome time, some great memories. We also got to go on a Disney cruise together. That was with a broader family. So I have been on Disney pre-starting a YouTube channel, but these days Disney's definitely outside of my budget or price range. But we did get to cruise together a few different times. Tony, yes, figuring out how to celebrate without the father as well. And we definitely will celebrate his memory, George. Thank you for that. From North Carolina, I love it. I'm from Goldsboro. I think I've mentioned that before. But and Mom's actually tuning into from the beach this weekend, which is Moorhead Beach, Moorhead City. And London coming in. Hey there, Andrew. I haven't talked to you in a little bit. Hope all is going well in your travels. Meredith saying she hates locking in travels. There is no casino on Disney. So if you go to Disney, be expecting a more wholesome cruise. Their entertainers, for instance, are, I think, given the litany. There's no adult show. It is all very much so on the up and up proper side. But they do not have a casino, one of the few that do not. All right, so let's get into group cruise. So I know I've talked to you all about this before, but we have the group cruise coming up. So with that, make sure you are checking out the group cruise. It is on the Allure of the Seas on November 3rd. If you are here in the live, I take it that you are a loyal person to the channel, and I would love to actually get to meet you and thank you for supporting the channel. We are going on the inaugural sailing of Allure of the Seas. It is out of Port Canaveral. So it'll be November 3rd. There are still tickets for sale. I just looked and you can get a balcony for around $600 per person, double occupancy. There will be links in the description down below of this video where you can fill out the JotForm. And so since it is a group cruise, we need to go through a travel agent. And Ron Cohen is that travel agent, one that I've been using for a while now, and he will be glad to go over the pricing options with you. Doesn't mean you have to book. He's often really good at being able to get refundable fares. So just in case something comes up down the road or you can't make it on this quick weekend sailing, you might be able to back out of it. But fill out the JotForm and let him know when's a good time to call you or email you to get you some prices for the inaugural sailing. So I think it's going to be a really, really cool time. So I've been back to Nassau a few times since our last trip the last group cruise that we did, we had a wonderful Brandon's Ultimate self-guided walking tour. Now, I don't have all the history that's there, but I have walked it a lot. This tour of mine is something that I do often, and we had a really, really good time. And so we might be doing that again, but I've got a couple of other options. I actually got a video coming out on a new food option. So I don't know if you all knew this or not, but the Bahamas has a authentic dessert that you only find in the Bahamas, and that is called duff. And so I went to the new Duff, which is over by the fish fry. And I was able to sample what is this Duff and try out the new Duff restaurant. The food was fantastic, by the way. I still have to make that video, and you'll get to see me sample what is Duff. But it is fantastic. It's spelled D-U-F-F. So I'm thinking we might swing over there or a few more off the beaten spot places just to make it a little bit different. A lot of you are, cruisers. You have gone to Nassau before, and so I'm trying to find unique and different things that you may not have experienced in Nassau. I think Nassau gets a bad rap sometimes because people just don't know what to do there. And this is a good way for us to all explore together, if you will, and see a few more things of what Nassau has to offer. I am missing that second monitor. Sports crazy, definitely loyal to Royal. I totally get that. It's funny. I used to be a loyalist through and through to Royal Caribbean. Love them. But recently the prices are going up some. And so with that, I've started looking at some other options. Virgin Voyages has come along, which has a much different experience that I've tried out. And so I've actually found myself becoming less of a loyalist. It doesn't mean that I don't love Royal Caribbean, but it means that I'm more comfortable trying other cruise lines. And I think this extends even past cruising for me when it comes to airlines, when it comes to car rental agencies, hotel chains. Like, I have been a sucker for a loyalty program across the board with all of these. I love my points and having status with everybody out there, hotels, cruise lines, car rental agencies, you name it. I like having status and feel like I'm being treated special. But as I'm getting older, I'm learning that I'm not getting that much out of this. Like, it sounds great on the surface, but I feel like I'm missing a lot of stuff. And so I'm glad that I've started kind of venturing out a little bit. I've still got a ton of Royal booked, but I'm enjoying going elsewhere. Same with, airfare. I'm looking at, I take Delta a lot. Even in Miami, I take Delta. They have great on-time performance, but oftentimes they're not the most convenient of routes for me to take, and I'm still sticking with them. And I'm starting to go, why am I doing this? Like, upgrades definitely don't happen these days, but we'll see. But overall, I've kind of branched out a little bit, I feel like. And Bill, you were loyal to Royal until the pause. So after COVID happened, and I think we're still seeing some of the fallout of this, the cruise lines are shifting. They're changing their marketing strategy. They're changing their business strategy. And the cruise lines that we knew before COVID, I think, are very different now. I've heard this across the board. Carnival's changing, Royal is changing, Celebrity is changing, Princess is changing. They're all kind of changing and shifting and trying to figure out where they belong in, the post-COVID cruising world. And I think we continue to see that. You all may remember the video I made on saying the Icon of the Seas was not for me. And I really talked a lot about what I felt was Royal Caribbean's strategy of going for families, multi-generational groups. People of that nature that are come and willing to pay a higher buck. I think that's definitely their current strategy. And the other ones, Virgin is taking on the 18 plus crowd. So there's a lot of neat things out there. Celebrity strategy, I think, is still interesting. I don't see much from their marketing as I used to, but I feel like it is definitely a more sophisticated kind of strategy. And they're shifting from, I think they used to be one that drew in an older demographic, and they're bringing that down into the 40s and 30s now, where those people feel they have a space, especially on their newer ships, which are supposed to be beautiful. Haven't been on one of their newer ships yet, but I am looking forward to the day I can do that. Hey, Carolyn, you're going on Independence, it sounds like. I have been on Independence many times. She used to do a 4-night sailing out of Fort Lauderdale pre-COVID. And so I used to go on a lot of those 4-night sailings. And Independence is my second favorite cruise ship. You're going to find a lot of similar features that Freedom had. So it is a really, really good ship. My second favorite. It is upgraded, so you're going to have a blast there. All right, so story time with you all. And so I'm going to loosely tie this into cruises, and we'll see how this goes. But yesterday, have you ever just had a day that is not a good day, where literally anything that can go wrong can and will go wrong? So I am at home this weekend. I'm not home a lot of weekends. I'm either here in New York or just somewhere else, or on a cruise ship. And so I wanted to get some errands done yesterday, and I rented a car to help get me to a mini dump. I need to throw away some household furniture. And so I found literally a $20 rental. I kid you not. We have $20 rentals, daily rentals here in Miami over at the airport. And so I thought, for $20, like, I can get a mini SUV, pack everything up, take it to the dump, have an amazing time. It'll be easy. So the airport is where the car is supposed to be, where I'm supposed to pick it up, right? So for me to get there, it is I take the Metro Mover to the Metro Rail, which is like our above subway system, and it takes me right to the airport. Super easy. I get to the airport, I'm walking off the train, and I realize that I get to thinking, I'm like, you know what? I've not had any reminders, notifications. It's not like prompting me to, hey, come pick up your car. And so I looked, and I had booked it for the wrong weekend, like an amateur, like I'd never booked anything in my life. And so I very quickly, went through the phone, fixed that, found another one for that actual day, like at $21. I mean, I'm fine with that. I'll eat the $1 for my mistake. And then I go upstairs, and I'm looking in the car rental place at the airport, nowhere to be found. This place, this $21 car rental shop, nowhere to be found. And so I pull up my advertisement or the reservation, and I see that you have to call to figure out where they are. And I was like, well, that's odd. Like, why do I have to call them to tell me where, like, I'm here at the car rental place? Apparently, Miami has off-property car rentals. So if you want a cheap car, you're gonna need to go off-property. And so I had to wait for another shuttle, 20 minutes, got to the station where it was. Shuttle ride was fine. Walk in, and there's a line of 20 people waiting to pick up, their $21 cars. And so I get in the line. I stand in this line for 30 minutes. And within that 30 minutes, they've only processed 2 people the entire time. And so I eventually just gave up. I said, you know what, this is not working. And I got back on the shuttle, repeated this entire process to get back home all over again. So, moral to the story, if you are looking at renting cars, because I know a lot of you travel, you're coming down here for cruises, some of you want to rent a car to spend the day around here, just know if you rent a cheap car, you're probably going to get a cheap service experience, and you're going to have to spend a lot of time getting that car. So make sure if you're getting the cheap car, you may be low on money, but you need to be high on time and patience to make this happen. I was not. I just had it for, I think I told him I wanted it till 6 o'clock, and I quickly learned that I was not going to be able to pick up the car until probably 1:30, and I got to the airport at 11:30, and it was just, I could not do it. Interestingly enough, though, on the way back, everything kind of works out a little bit. I was taking the train back, and it was a fuller train, and there was a gentleman who sat beside of me that started engaging the person across the aisle from him about how to get to Coral Way is where he wanted to go. He wanted to go Coral Way. And this other guy didn't never take the trolleys or anything. And you all may have seen that I made a video on the Coral Way trolley. And so I very quickly, jumped into the conversation. I shouldn't say quickly. I'm going to take that back. I did not quickly. I let them have the conversation for a while. And the reason that I did that is I've learned that I don't always have to be the savior of people. I see this for myself a lot on cruise ships. So if I'm on cruise ships, you all know, I kind of know what I'm doing at this point. I know the answers that people are asking sometimes. But I've kind of learned that you don't always have to be the one to save the situation or to answer the question and just jump in. I think part of figuring out being on a cruise ship, what is that like, what are the questions you have, I think that that's part of the fun of being on a cruise ship. And people don't always actually appreciate you jumping in and answering a question when they kind of may want to go through that process. So I don't necessarily always jump into conversations too terribly quickly, and I don't necessarily want to seem like a show off either. I think there's a part of me that thinks that it may come across incorrectly to help out in that way. But me and this gentleman on the train got to talking. Sure enough, he's trying to get over to Port Miami. And I was like, you have come to the right place, my sir. And so I gave him full instructions, plenty of how-tos, where to go, pull up the live trolley app to make sure you know where that trolley is at. But he had flown into, and I'm not sure that I recommend this. I don't know if he was trying to save some money or not, but he had flown into Fort Lauderdale Airport took a shuttle bus to the Tri-Rail station, took the Tri-Rail down to the Metro Rail, and then was taking the Metro Rail all the way to the trolley that'll take him to Port Miami. And I just was thinking, gosh, like you're maybe saving $1, but you're spending an extra 3 hours going through this process. For those of you that want to do it, highly recommend the Bright Line to bring you down, and then you can get over to the Coral Way Trolley. Don't try Tri-Rail. If you are in South Florida, my friends, Tri-Rail is more of a local commuter train. I don't know that it's necessarily something that if you don't know what you're going to experience, what you're going to expect. I don't think that it's always a good fit for people who just aren't familiar with it. Brightline is a much nicer experience. Yeah, it's going to cost a little bit more. But Tri-Rail isn't always a wonderful experience. So take it with a grain of salt if you are looking at going to Tri-Rail. Come back to the comments. Let's see. Meredith, am I going on the President's Cruise? You know, the President's Cruise has never really excited me. It is a lot of Pinnacle members, let's be honest about it. And I'm not sure that I want to be in that group. I feel like it's a lot of pomp and circumstance. I don't even know how it's priced. This year, I believe they're leaving out of Alaska, but it has just never appealed to me. I am not into that. I'd rather go do my own thing versus that's going to have a lot of organized events, people going to it. Yeah, I'm probably going to have a lot of friends there. I mean, that's the downside to me thinking this is I have a lot of friends of mine who are going to be going on the President's Cruise. And it's also a 7-day cruise. And you all know I like my short cruises. So I'd have to take vacation time for a cruise that they picked out for me. And I'd rather pick out my own cruises and choose what 7-day cruise I want to do versus just going on that one. They do get some really nice swag, though, I'll say. I've seen some really cool stuff. They'll have an interesting performer or headliner that comes on for them. So I am not going to be there, but who knows? Maybe in the future, if they keep doing them and I retire one day and I have more free time, I would certainly probably go on at least one. And Sandy, I hear you. Loyal to Royal is tough when the prices keep going up. So let's talk about pricing strategies a little bit, Sandy. So I have often said, this has shifted in the last 3 months, probably right before summer. I was playing the short game. I wasn't booking cruises until they came closer in because the prices would drop. What I am seeing now, and I'm not a travel agent by any means, I am just somebody who books a lot of cruises. So that's where this knowledge is coming from. I definitely recommend a travel agent if you're looking at booking a cruise and wanting to see, do you need to wait? Do you need to go ahead and book it? Check in with a travel agent. But my personal thoughts on what I'm seeing is that cruises are much cheaper further out now. So the old saying of the further out you book, the cheaper it's going to be. I think we've returned to that as the normal state right now. Doesn't mean it's not going to shift when winter comes around, but there's so many people that are booking, and I believe most of those people are booking close into the cruise, and that's what's driving the prices up a lot. If I look at, you know, a Freedom of the Seas sailing for this summer, number one, it's either sold out already or it's going to be $1,200 for an interior cabin. But if I look to next summer or even further out, I'm looking into 2025 at this point to find really good deals. That's where I think the sweet spot is. So if you are a planner, I mean, you've got to be able to keep up with what you want to go, and you've got to be able to commit. If you're scared of commitment issues, I often am, but not with booking cruises. That's where you're going to find much cheaper cruises, and it is saving my budget at this point. So you all may know that I found some MSC cruises. MSC is going to be doing weekend sailings from January to March of 2024, and I was booking them for legit $300 all in for the weekend sailing. I can't get on Freedom of the Seas during that period of time for under $700 for an interior cabin. So it is something that I am certainly really looking forward to. And that's what's going to allow me to continue, you know, cruising more. Yeah, I am limited by vacation days and I'm limited by financial resources. I already am shoving all of my money towards the cruise line, but with the prices going up, you know, I worry that maybe one day the weekend cruiser might not be the weekend cruiser. He might be like the every other weekend cruiser or something to that regards as the prices keep going up. But hopefully that will not be the case. Martin, welcome from Amsterdam. I love that I got some European folks on here. I love that. So, oh, Stone, hey, welcome, Stone, a personal friend of mine. I need to talk to you more about the Red Coach up to Port Canaveral. I have booked Brightline, so for the November 3rd group cruise, if you're not booked on it, take a look at it, see what you think. Would love to have you. I booked the Brightline, and I think it ran me it ran me about $160, I think, round trip to do that. I do get a discount through my full-time job, so it's tax-free or pre-tax is what it is. So it's like a 30% discount on that. So it's not really that bad. But I would consider the red line or the red coach if it gets me closer to the port, because I'm still going to show up in Orlando and have to take an Uber over, because I don't think that there's a proper shuttle from the Brightline station over yet. Maybe somebody will come up with one of those, which would be really nice. And Tony is saying he liked the tri-rail from Fort Lauderdale to Miami Airport. It goes straight into Miami Airport, so that is not a bad experience. If you got a little bit extra time, it's not bad at all. Meredith Allure is currently in Galveston, but she's coming over to Port Canaveral to pick up the 3 and 4 night sailings starting on November 3rd. It'll be the very first one that she does. And then, interestingly, after she gets done with that run, she'll be coming down to Miami. Stone, I would love to come to Singapore. I'm looking at Spectrum of the Seas. I've got my 1400 cruise milestone that I want to use on, I think, Spectrum of the Seas. If it is a decent route and it's not similar to what I'm going to do this time, I'd love to. So, Ramon, about this shirt here. This is my Miami shirt. I don't know if you can see it. It's even got the little, says welcome to Miami, and it's got all sorts of iconic Miami things on it. This was actually purchased on a cruise ship. Believe it or not, this came from a cruise ship, and it may or may not have a matching bathing suit that also goes with it. But it is from Le Club, L-E Club, is who makes this. I bought several of their things from the ships. They are a Miami-based company. I've done some research on them. And I like their products. I mean, the colors on this are fantastic. I like having a little bit of brightness down here in South Florida. So I am a big fan. Chris, asking about Disney. I would love to do a 3-night Disney cruise, Chris, and, test it out. I did one pre-starting YouTube. I think my 3rd or 4th ever cruise was on Disney, actually. But Disney is hugely out of my budget for a weekend sailing. If the powers that be at Disney Cruise Line wanted to bring me on a sponsored opportunity, I would gladly jump at that opportunity to go on a weekend cruise with Disney. But if I did that, that would literally be the only cruise I probably could do for about a month and a half, given their prices. When I tell you they're expensive, they're probably going for $2,000 for an interior cabin for a weekend for just one person. And to me, that's just not worth it. The juice is not worth the squeeze. I'd make some videos while there, tell you all about it, but it's not good. Those videos are not going to make $2,000 to help offset that cost. So I wish, Chris, hopefully, maybe one day they'll approach me about it, the powers at Disney, but for now, I'm not going to be doing that. So, best way, Sandy, to get from Orlando to Port Canaveral? I don't know that a lot of people like my thought here. I take Uber or a rideshare, Lyft, whatever one you want to use. That is what I traditionally use, and I do that for a few reasons. The first is the flexibility. I don't have to worry about, if I get a shuttle, which is probably going to run you, I think, like $20 to $30 a person. For a solo person, that might be fine. They're going to pick you up at a certain time. They don't always do a great job of knowing if your flight got delayed or if something just goes bump in the night. And I don't want to have to go out there and try to figure out where they're at. For me, Uber and Lyft, rideshare apps, give me so much flexibility, and it's not that much more money, especially if you are 2 people. I think the last time I did an Uber, and this was probably a year ago, it was about $45, $50 one way. Not a horrible price, and you can put as many people as you want in the car for that amount of money. That is Uber X pricing, by the way. So if you were going with a family of 4 and you've got enough luggage, to last you a month, you probably aren't going to need an Uber X. You're going to have to up yourself to an XL to make sure everything fits, and then it's going to get a little bit pricey. But me personally, I like the flexibility of Uber. I even got out, and this was a little bit tricky that I did, probably the most aggressive that I've been getting off of a cruise ship. So when I went to, which ship was I on? It may have been the Allure of the Seas, actually. But out of Port Canaveral, I'm used to being able to get off the ship around 7 o'clock in the morning here in Miami. If not, the Liberty of the Seas used to be 6:30. But that ship didn't get back in until 7:30 is when they let us off. And so I had booked myself, in my infinite wisdom, a 10 a.m. flight out of Orlando. And so there are plenty of things that could have gone wrong. And most people would have said, oh, there's no way you're going to make it. And if something would have happened, the slightest thing would have happened, I would have missed it. But I walked off the ship legitimately at 7:30, was in my Uber by 7:35, and we went straight to the airport. And I was at the airport by like 8:10, and I actually was there an hour and a half early for my flight. I do not recommend everybody to do that. That is for, let's say, a seasoned cruiser with not a lot of patience, but a lot of, it's okay, it's going to be fine. If you have some anxiety issues, that is not the strategy you want to take on getting off your cruise ship at all. But for me and other people that are seasoned, I draw the line in a little bit closer on when you should get off of the cruise ship. I do not follow, oh, you've got to wait until the afternoon. If this is your absolute first cruise and you don't know what you're doing, I think that that's probably good advice. And that way you don't feel rushed. You can have coffee, you can grab some food in the morning, and then finally get off the ship on your terms. But for me, I'm good getting off, lining up early, walking off the ship as soon as I can, and knowing that if I need to make these flights, I can. I don't always enjoy it. If I can give myself a little bit of flexibility to be able to get my coffee, get my breakfast, that's always fun too. But that's probably the most aggressive I've ever been in getting off of a cruise ship. Hey, Beth, welcome to the call. Better late than never on coming in. Kevin, glad you enjoyed Coco Cay and Nassau. They are definitely my home ports. Though interestingly, and I don't know if I'm sad or disappointed in this, but a lot of the cruises that I have coming up are actually not going to Nassau and Coco Cay, mainly because I'm trying out different cruise lines. They are still weekend cruises, but there's a lot of them that are doing Key West these days. And so I'm actually really excited to start going down to Key West. It's a 4-hour drive from where I live, so it's not like it's, me going that far out of my way. But I'm really excited to do some cruises over to Key West and, give Nassau a little bit of a break. I love Nassau. I want to make some more videos on what to do there, but I'm okay taking a little bit of a break. Kevin, I see that you did Pirates Jeep tours with Captain Dark Chocolate. We had such a good time when I was there. If you have not done Nassau tour, a proper Nassau tour to learn about the history, about what is Nassau, and go to some of these places off the beaten path, check out the video I did on Pirates Jeep Tour. They are a fantastic company. Everybody there is super nice. They know their history. They're all locals to Nassau, and it is a really, really good time. And, they used to not have a surcharge for solo cruises. I think that may have changed in their current process. So you'll want probably 2 people to go on there. But they're great for kids, great for families. Check them out if you do get a chance. All right, so let's get into the cruise news section a little bit here. So you all may or may not have heard Utopia of the Seas. It is coming. It's going to be real. It's coming out. So they are going to be announcing, something about the Utopia of the Seas on Tuesday of this week, the 20th. Interestingly enough, was it 2 or 3 days ago, they made a little bit of a faux pas. Somebody in the IT department, I think, may have messed up, or they were testing something out. But there were a few Utopia bookings that went live in the system that us users could see on our end, and we could actually book it. I heard the people that booked it, they were canceled. So I don't know if these are true bookings that came out there or not, but I'm really excited by, I'll say the fake reservations that you could have made back then. They weren't real, because number one, they were doing weekend cruises. It looked like the Utopia might be doing weekend sailings. I have never done an inaugural sailing before. I think I saw Wonder of the Seas on its inaugural arrival to Nassau when I was on Freedom of the Seas, but I've never done an actual inaugural cruise before. And so if it does weekends, there's a good chance the weekend cruiser might could actually go on his first inaugural cruise. So I'm super excited. and have my fingers crossed that it will be doing the weekend sailings as soon as it comes out. Heck, even if it does a 3-night, 4-night, and then it starts doing 7 nights, just to warm it up a little bit, I am glad to go there and help them out with that. The other really good thing that I'll say, and again, there's no validity to any of this, but the prices that I saw from some friends that they sent to me were really reasonable. For an inaugural sailing, I was like, oh wow, these are not Icon of the Seas pricing. Icon's prices are still through the roof. I mean, from day one, it has been a huge uptake. And so for Utopia, it'll be interesting if they follow a similar pricing model, and if Utopia will have the same buzz that Icon of the Seas has. I feel like we've been in an era of Icon, Icon, Icon. Like it's the, what's the classic TV show where it's not Marta. I'm blanking on the name. Let me know in the comments if you know the name. Marsha, there we go. Oh, I need more coffee. Like Marsha, everything's been about Icon. Utopia's always been coming along, but it's what, the 5th or 6th Oasis class ship at this point? Is it really going to be that much different? Is it going to have that much excitement to it? They are building it bigger and better still, so it'll be interesting to see what new features this ship may have, or is it going to be very similar to Wonder of the Seas? So I've got my eyes on Utopia just to see what it's like, and I'm really hoping it does the 3 and 4 days that are out there. But more information is going to be coming out on Tuesday. It's my thoughts that they're probably going to actually tell us where they're going to deploy the Utopia to. So that just means they're going to tell us what the schedule is. Where's she going to home port? Is she going to be out of Canaveral? Is she going to be out of Miami, out of Singapore? Or is it going to be, 3-night sailings, 4 nights, 7 nights, and where it's going to be going? They'll let us know that hopefully on Tuesday. That's what I'm anticipating. And I don't know that the bookings will go live on that actual day. They may wait a day or two. But I'm certainly going to be checking it out, especially if there's a weekend cruise on it. I'm going to be jumping all over that. Chris, I've never tried Princess of the Seas. I would go to Princess, but they don't have any weekend sailings. They don't even have any 5-nighters for the most part. They are a 6 and 7 night cruise line. They are longer sailings. I do look at Princess. If I'm looking at going somewhere exotic, somewhere around the world for a longer sailing, you all know that in December is where I normally get in a 12 or 14 night sailing. That's when I'll peek over at Princess to see what they're offering, because I think they have a really good longer cruise product, but they don't have anything on the short side. I would love to go to Princess. I don't necessarily have a lot of opportunity to be able to jump on their ship since they always do longer sailings. So Beth, my favorite thing to do in Nassau, and you're doing a back-to-back. So a lot of people, thank you Beth for bringing this up. We talk about doing weekend sailings. You don't have to do just a weekend sailing. If you want to do a 7-night and you love Nassau, you love Coco Cay, and you know that Freedom of the Seas is an excellent cruise ship, you can come and do a back-to-back as Beth is going to do here. I've even made a video on how to do that, so if you have not watched, I call it the Advanced Cruising Strategies video on how to do advanced cruising, such as a back-to-back, or even if you're doing a side-to-side, you can extend your cruise vacation. Side-to-side is where you would go from like Freedom of the Seas, and you'd walk down the terminal to, let's say, Virgin Voyages, and you jump on a Virgin Voyages ship the same day you got off of your Royal Caribbean ship. That is a side-to-side. Back-to-back, you stay on the same exact ship. My favorite thing to do in Nassau really depends. So I've been going there a lot, and there's a lot of neat stuff that you can do. The self-guided walking tour, if you've not been to Nassau before, is a solid crowd pleaser. Everybody loves that tour. You get to see a lot of really cool, interesting, and indigenous information and things to Nassau, Bahamas. So I really, really recommend it. If you're looking for a good bar, go to Pirates Republic. It is right when you walk outside of the cruise ship, right on the main drag. And it is a solid place to go. They make their own beer, and they make their own seltzer these days as well. So if you're not a beer drinker, but I love it because the staff there are incredible. They are the nicest people, the most welcoming people at Pirates Republic. So I definitely recommend checking that out. If you want food, I'll go over to, where do I like to go for food? What is the name of that place? I'm blanking on it. We went on the group cruise. I am not good with name recall. So that is, I'll come back to it. Maybe it would hit me like Marsha's name hit me. But there are other places around there. Sharky's. There we go. Just need to give it some time. Be patient with it. Sharky's is a good spot to go. They've got really good conch that is there, and their jerk chicken is my favorite thing to get, and I feel like I'm being a little bit on the healthy side. If you want to go to a beach and you want a free experience, Junkanoo Beach is a fun place to go. It's going to be a little bit loud, a little bit more party crowd, but if you walk a little bit past that, they've got a beautiful beach with not that many people there. And so I'd recommend keep walking past Junkanoo. If you want a beach, have a free experience, you can do that. And over at the Fish Fry, you've got Twin Brothers as well as Goldilocks who have amazing food. If you're local to Nassau, you may hear some people call this Arawak Cay, or Arawak Key, which is where the fish fry is. That's what all of us cruise passengers call it, but locals don't actually call it that. Twin Brothers as well as the fish fry is really, really good. Some people go to Nassau and they love going to the casinos. They want to do Baha Mar, which is the newer, I think, nicer casino. Some people like going over to the Atlantis. So those are going to be your general options of things that you can do there. Art, what cruise are you going on that's going to Key West? I'm curious. Or what cruise line, I should say. I think that going to Key West is an awesome way to do a 4-night sailing. Interestingly, you're probably not going to find, you'll have to, if you go to Key West, it's got to be at least a 3-night, and you're going to have to go to the Bahamas. You still have to go there for at least 1 day because that cruise ship's got to leave the country. Thanks to the Jones Act, a cruise ship cannot leave from a U.S. port and not go to a foreign port. It has to go to a foreign port before it returns. So that's why you don't see cruises to nowhere, interestingly enough. Like if you go over to Asia, you'll see a 2-night cruise to nowhere. Literally, the ship leaves, stays in water the entire time, and then comes back, and you have a wonderful time. Here in the U.S., that is illegal, believe it or not. And it's also a reason why New York, New Jersey, if you're going out of Bayonne, does not have weekend sailings. Because the ship physically cannot make it over to Bermuda and come back within a 3-night sailing. They did have a 4-night sailing like 4 years ago that I actually went on. I love when ships that don't normally do a short sailing do a short sailing. So I went on this one to Bermuda and we literally had 6 hours. That was it. There was 6 hours from the time we could get off to the time we had to be back on was 6 hours. So even on a 4-night, that's how quick the turnaround is from there. So that's why you don't see weekend cruises up north. And you just don't get into the good weather in the winter with it just 3 days. You need 2 days just to come far enough south that you can enjoy the pool. George, the name of the tour that I really like is Pirate Jeep Tours in Nassau, Bahamas. There's a video on the page. So if you go to the Weekend Cruiser YouTube channel, type in Pirate Jeep Tour, it'll pop up with the review and it'll have the links down at the bottom on how you can book through them. But I highly recommend them. I love going and experiencing these different things in Nassau so that I can bring them back to you all. I really do like Nassau, and I wish it didn't get as bad of a rap as it does. I get that, look, I've been there, I think I'm up to almost 100 times now going to Nassau. And so I get that people may burn out on it, but there's a lot to do that can keep you guessing and keep you excited. There's still stuff to do. Beth, love that you like Sharky's as well. Sarah, Sharky's, she was on our group cruise where we all went together. Oh, interesting, Art. Some Carnival Conquest cruises are going over to Key West. I did not anticipate that one. I've been looking at Carnival recently, y'all. I'm not going to lie. With the prices going up, I've been looking at them. I've never done Carnival. I did the Carnival Fantasy back in 2009. My very first cruise out of New Orleans that I ever did. And I've not been back to Carnival. I kind of fell in love with Royal Caribbean after that. And I've always been on them. But the prices, I sometimes go, should I be doing the Conquest here out of Miami? And interestingly enough, I've been finding that, people say Carnival's, sometimes a lower cost cruise line to go on. I'm not seeing that. So when I'm pricing it out, especially in the near term, Carnival Conquest and the Freedom of the Seas out of Miami are going for about the same cost, if not more. And so if they're going to be, comparable prices, I'm going to choose Royal Caribbean, what I know, versus going for a new cruise line that I'm not sure what I'm going to be getting. Not opposed to doing Carnival. And I think that it would be fun to make a video one day on, Brandon does Carnival or the Weekend Cruiser does Carnival. I think that would be really, really neat to compare that because, we all have our thoughts on Carnival. Some people love Carnival. Carnival has a huge following. And a lot of people don't like Carnival and have a huge distaste for it. And so I'd be curious to see, what is it? Because I've heard all sorts of opinions from people that love it. It's the best cruise line. The people that, think that it's the worst cruise line. I'm curious which one I would actually come away thinking how it is. It would be a really just neat experience just to go wet my toe on a weekend and see how it is. I think that could actually be a fun thing to do, but I'm not quite there yet. And Beth, I will be on your first leg. So I've got the 11th, the 25th, and I think the next weekend booked on Freedom of the Seas. So look forward to hanging out. And George, the crew does tend to stay on the ship in Nassau unless they're going for good Chinese food. And there's a grocery store actually down the street that a lot of them like to go to if they need to stock up and they didn't get a chance to come out in Miami. If they are doing the weekend sailings like Freedom of the Seas, they will tell you their favorite port is Miami. They love coming to Miami. It's a proper city, plenty for the crew members to do. There's only so much you can do at Coco Cay and Nassau if that is where you're going literally twice a week, is where these people go on, the crew members on Freedom of the Seas are going. So they love Miami. Nassau, they don't always get off. They may just do something different. You'll see some of them at Senor Frogs having a good time, unwinding a little bit. Or you may see them, like I said, walking the street, going to get some Chinese food, or going to the grocery store. Art, I will take a look at, if it does Key West and Half Moon Key, or even Key West and Nassau, I will look at that. I'm enjoying the thought of going to Key West a lot these days. All right, so moving on to more cruise news. I'm going to do two in this little segment here. So we've talked a little bit about Independence of the Seas. She is my second favorite cruise line, and I was planning out my 2025. Yes, that's what I'm thinking of these days. And I've already got two booked in 2025 on the Celebrity Silhouette or Summit, one of the two. That's going to be doing weekend sailings out of Port Everglades, Fort Lauderdale, starting in 2025, which actually they start in December 2024, which is crazy to me to think that Celebrity, a premium cruise line, is getting into the weekend cruises. It'll be very interesting to see how that's going to play out, but more to come on that. But what I learned while I was going through and looking at, what do I want to do in 2025? Can I pick up any good deals? Interestingly enough, Independence of the Seas is going to start doing weekends out of Miami. So the Allure of the Seas is going to transfer from Galveston to Port Canaveral. She'll then move down here to Miami. And then in February of 2025, the Independence of the Seas is going to pick up the weekend sailings out of Miami. Currently, that only flows through to April. So I don't know if it's going to be a long-term situation. It could just be that they haven't put out the calendar past April of 2025. That's already pretty far out there for a cruise line. But I am super excited. So they're going to be taking my Freedom of the Seas away, my absolute favorite ship, and giving me the Allure of the Seas. Not really happy about that. You all know that I am not a big ship kind of guy. I'm not an Oasis class person. I'll go on them. I like them, but it's not my preference. I've done very few big boy ships. And so having Allure down here to be my home ship, I don't know that I'll ever feel at home on the Allure. I'm going to book it. I'm going to be going on it. I've already got several booked. I just don't know how that's going to play out. It also will be neat because most people, when they go on the Allure, there's probably like 30 or 40 other Pinnacles there with them, and they can't always get into the coastal kitchen. If this ship is going to be doing weekend sailings, I'll be really curious to see if our number of Pinnacle guests start going up. Currently on Freedom of the Seas, we get anywhere from no Pinnacle members to about 11 to 15 max, and that is on a really good day or a really good weekend on Freedom of the Seas. So it'll be interesting to see if the Allure brings in more Pinnacle members, because I know a lot of people love the perk that we can go to the coastal kitchen. And I'm probably actually really going to like that as well, because I won't have to buy specialty then. I can just go to coastal kitchen and save myself a few dollars, because the last time I did specialty, which was 4 weeks ago, I got the ultimate dining package on the cruise ship, and all in, it was $160 for a weekend sailing, which is crazy. That is a lot of money for the dining package. And so I don't know that it was necessarily worth it. What I think is still worth it, though, is using the BOGO. So especially if you're on a weekend cruise, you don't need to eat specialty every single night. I can use the BOGO, and that's a benefit you get at Diamond Plus and higher in the Current Anchor Society, to get your first night half off, second night half off, or however they do the math on the register. It winds up being a 50% discount on each of the meals, which is a great way to do it. And then for the third night, I'll do a la carte. So I'll go to Azumi Sushi, or I'll go to Playmakers, and I'll just order off the menu and get the food that they have there and save myself a lot of money by not going to Chops or Jamie's Italian. The other thing I'll say is Playmakers prices have gone up too. I don't know if you all noticed that a few weeks ago. Playmakers, probably one of the more secret food locations. Most people don't even know they have food, I feel like. Their food's actually really good, you all. Like, if you have not eaten at Playmakers, I definitely recommend it. Prices have gone up, but I think that it's still a decent value. Before, it was a good value. Now it's an okay value, but the food there is still really good. So if you want something a little special, a little different, especially for lunches when you're in Port, Nassau, for instance, it's a really good spot. So check that out. The next thing that I want to talk about is a cruise rumor that's out there. So I want to see if you all believe this or not. And so what's going around on social media right now came out of a captain's corner. So captain's corner is where the captain gets up on the front of the stage. If you're on Oasis class, you're in the stage. If you're on the other ships, you could be in the auditorium or, somewhere else. And the captains, I think there's been two different ones that people have reported, have said that Royal Caribbean is building a new class of ship. Now, I don't know if you all saw this or not, and I don't know how much validity there is to it, so I'm curious on your thoughts. But here's the information. So what's being rumored, and it's completely 100% a rumor. I am not spreading facts at this point, but what I've heard people say online, so it's even third-hand rumor, which is even worse, is that they're going to build a new class of ship called the Discovery class. And apparently that Discovery class is going to be a small ship. Let that sink in. They're saying Royal Caribbean is going to build a new class of ship that is going to be a smaller ship. And somebody even said that that's going to be around 3,000 passengers. That's about the size of a Voyager class ship. Or not Voyager, but Vision class ship. It is a smaller ship. And so I'm curious what you all think about that. So let me do a quick poll here, quick. And I want to see, do you believe that or do you not believe that? And type in this section. Will it be smaller? Let me know in the comment section, what do you think? Is it going to be a smaller ship? I personally miss small ships. I would love for this to be true. I am not a big ship person, as I said earlier in this, and I kind of am fearful that eventually the small ships are going to be either spun off or they're going to be scrapped or sold to another cruise line, because I don't necessarily know that they have a fit long term. So this information was a little bit surprising to me. And so, it's from a captain's corner. I think back to when we used to hear from the captain's corner on what the icon of the seas was going to be. They don't always get information right. They hear things, and I think they like to gossip a little bit too in the captain's corners. But what they used to say on the icon of the seas is that it was going to be, just a little bit bigger than Quantum, not bigger than Oasis, though, just a little bit bigger than Quantum. And sure enough, it's blown Oasis out of the water. So they got that one completely wrong. So it looks like a good number of people think that the new class of ship will be smaller. I want to believe this. With all of my heart, I want to believe that Royal Caribbean is going to have a new class of ship that's going to be smaller. But I'm struggling to believe that, and honestly, I don't think that it's true. I heard it, and I did not for one iota of a second get excited, because I don't think that it'll ever happen. I think that it is truly just a rumor. And the reason that I say that is ever since the inception of Royal Caribbean, they have never built a smaller ship. Every ship, literally, in the entire fleet that they've ever built has been bigger than the one before it. they intentionally do make the Oasis classes a foot bigger each time they make one of them. It's not that much of a difference, but it is always bigger. Even Icon of the Seas is now pushing the limits of it. So for them to come out and say, we're going to scrap that. You know what? We're going to change our strategy on getting the biggest and the best out there, and we're going to start building new ships. I have a hard time believing that. I also think through one reason why they love those big ships is because they make so much money on the big ships. The big ships are profitable ships. The smaller ships, not so much so. And I don't know if that has to do with their age necessarily, with maintenance and upkeep, and just overall cost of using it. If they get a new ship, is that going to go down? Probably, but I still don't know if it would make it worth their while. I want this to be true again, but I honestly, in my heart of hearts, am not thinking that it's truly going to wind up happening. So that's my thoughts on the Discovery. Hope I didn't bust anybody's bubble out there. It could still happen, but I would see it more, and I said this in my April Fool's video. I kind of would love to see the smaller ships spun off into a Royal Caribbean included, if you will, cruise line, similar to Celebrity and Seabourn, into a smaller kind of experience. Celebrity's trying to be that, but even Celebrity's building some bigger ships these days. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Sig, I was like, the Ascent, their newest ship, I believe that's going to be, is doing a 3-day. I will certainly check that out. I'll see if I can find it and see if I'm free. If it is midweek, I'm probably going to be a no-go. But if it is a Thursday to Sunday, let's say, I might be able to make that work. I'd love to be on one of the newer ships with Celebrity. Everybody talks so good about those. Hey, Dina, welcome to the chat. Do the cruise ships come in from a weekend cruise and then do a weekday cruise? They do. So if you're doing weekend cruises, for the most part, they're doing what they call a 3-4-3. 3-nighter, 4-nighter, 3-nighter. And they just repeat that cycle over and over and over. Every now and again, there'll be, a charter or something that throws their schedule off. Maybe there's, they couldn't get it into the ports they normally get it into, and they may change the schedule. But for the most part, that's what you're looking at. So Beth, for $260, including tips for the UDP on a 7-night, that's not bad. What I've found, though, for me at least, is the ultimate dining package on a 7-night cruise. It is exhausting. I mean, it is. I have no control when I get into a specialty restaurant, let's be honest. And I eat so much food, and I'm always feeling like I need to go to the lunches, to the dinners, and it is just over the top with food. I love the food. It's all great food, but it is so much food. It makes it really tough. Sarah, I'm glad to hear you go on the Serenade. I love that class of ship. Serenade is one of my favorite cruise ships, actually. That is of the smaller class. Freedom's my favorite, but if we go down to it, the way that they designed Serenade and that entire class, they call it the class of glass, because everywhere you look, there's glass where you can see outside, and it's so nice. And Majesty and Empress, I don't miss Majesty, interesting enough. I don't miss it. But the Empress was my first love. That's where I really fell in love with cruising. And so I do miss her as well. I hope they build on Beth. I really do. I think that, Thomas, maybe they are going for more options. It is turning into be a really large fleet. I think we're going to have more than 30 cruise ships with Royal Caribbean in service by the end of this year, which is crazy to think about. They've even off-sold some of these, but at the rate that they're building, and they've still got 2 more Icon of the Seas that they've got teed up. They've got another Oasis class that's going to come out. It'll be really interesting to see how Royal Caribbean grows over the next 5 years. Oh, it's Sunday, November 26th, and that's also Thanksgiving weekend, I believe. If it is November 26th. So I am probably going to be a no-go for that SIG, but I will still check it out just to see what I can do, because I'd love to be there. Chris, do I feel that 3 days are not long enough? Great question. I wish that I could go on longer sailings. I really do. I love a 3-night cruise, don't get me wrong. But if I actually had the option to go above and beyond that and to cruise longer sailings, I absolutely would. I would love to not feel like I'm quote unquote stuck or can only choose a weekend sailing. But that's the life that I live now. You know, I like being employed. That's nice to me. I like having a full-time job that pays for these cruises for me to go on. And so I don't want to mess that up. I do everything in my power to be a good employee, to be present at work, and I need to be there every single week. And so with that, I'm really limited to the cruises that I can go on. Weekend sailings are the only one that I can go on and come back to without actually having to take any vacation time, because it's legit Friday afternoon to first thing Monday morning. So nobody's any the wiser, if you will, that, hey, I'm on a cruise ship, because luckily my company doesn't care where I'm at on Saturdays and Sundays for the most part, which is really, really nice. But are there better options that are out there? Yes. I think personality-wise, you know, I go on longer sailings now, and it's interesting. I kind of go, huh, you all are kind of boring. Like, and I don't mean that to you all, of course, but for a 7-night cruise, the energy is so much different than what you find on a weekend cruise, party cruise, booze cruise, if you will. Like, everybody is high energy. And so I have to kind of adjust my expectations when I go on the longer sailings. I would go on longer sailings if I could. I think that I'm to the point in my life where I would enjoy that. But I'm just glad that I can still do the weekend sailings. Even, you know, I think that that's still a really good fit for me, but I would if I could. George, thank you for the, I think that is a sticker, I guess is what that's called. I really appreciate that. Doing all this is certainly not cheap, so I appreciate anything. So that means a lot to me, George. I appreciate that. And I love making good content. That is the beauty of what I do, is when I started this channel, coming up on 2 years ago now, I think. Yeah, 2 years ago. I started out saying that it's going to be my hobby. It cannot, as I just talked, I've got a full-time job. That has to remain my full-time job. As much as I love doing this, I don't want this to ever feel like it's work. I want it to feel like I'm hanging out with my friends, like I'm hanging out with you all now. And this has been a really, really great journey that I've been on. So thank you for that. Bill, another UDP on an Oasis class. If you do, you know, UDP on an Oasis class, I think it is different because you do have a lot more options. Ultimate dining package, a lot more options to choose from. If Sarah was to choose that for Serenade of the Seas for, you know, her sailing, she's got 2 options. She's got Italian and she's got steaks. That's what she's going to be able to order for the entire length of the cruise. So the bigger ship definitely does make a little bit of difference there. Hey, Martin. Better late than never. I appreciate it. Always glad to see you. All right, so any questions? That's all the content that I had for today. Amazing how the time goes by so quick. Any questions or things that you all want to talk about at this time? We can flip into wherever you want to go. If you've got questions that you've got on your coming up cruise, let's talk about some of those. Give everybody a moment to fill in the questions. Maybe I've answered all of them. To be sure, y'all have a question or 2 out there. Is weekend cruise or weekend river cruising a thing? Not to my knowledge, it's not. No, I don't think so. I think those are at least a 7-nighter for the most part. Interestingly enough, there are American river cruises. I don't know if you all knew this, but there's the American cruise line that does river cruises here. I think Viking has a few in the U.S. as well. You don't have to go on the River Nile or the Ganges. You can go to the Mississippi. You can go up to the Great Lakes to get on river cruises. They're still going to be a little bit longer. They don't necessarily go very far or very fast. But I'd be really interested to do some of those. One thing that I am a big fan of is seeing the world. The bigger cruise ships that are out there just can't get into a lot of the ports. And so it would be really nice to take a river cruise to some more remote locations, some really interesting places, because civilization built up around rivers. It built up around water. And so they can get really good access to places that the big boy ships just cannot. So I'd be really into doing that. Price point on those I think is a little bit much, but I might be able to figure that out one of these days. And Beth, have I been on Navigator? Why, yes, I have. Interestingly enough, Navigator was the weekend cruise, my home ship, for a good little while. So down here in Miami, we get a lot of ships, and I have a lot of home ships. I've been on the Navigator probably 30 times. When she went over to California, I went over and said hello. Did 3 back-to-back, so 3-night, a 4-night, and a 3-night, where it did Ensenada and Catalina Island, and had a blast. The Navigator is a wonderful ship. So Navigator is going to be tinier than Freedom of the Seas, Independence of the Seas. It is a smaller ship, but it is the same exact floor plan. So if you've been on Freedom, Independence, Liberty, and there's one more that I'm not thinking of, it's the same size as those. So if you've done, or not same size, same layout. So you're going to be able to navigate it with absolutely no problem. It's going to have a little bit less shopping in it and some less rooms, but it's a really, really good ship. So I hope you have a blast over there. Though I will caution, if you've not been to the West Coast, you could be on the West Coast already. Ensenada I dubbed as the Nassau of the West. That's what I affectionately called it. So make sure you have kind of a strategy on what you're going to do when you get to Ensenada, if that's where your sailing is going to. Hopefully you're getting one of the longer sailings where it's going to go to, Cabo, Puerto Vallarta, all those great places, because there are some really nice things to do on longer sailings over there. Craig, so everybody wants more cruises out of Los Angeles. And I don't think that any cruise line has really figured it out. So Royal actually, and you all know this, they pulled their cruise lines out for a while. They pulled their ships from the West Coast. And I'm not sure how great the Navigator is doing now in terms of its capacity, making sure that it's staying full, and making sure that it's being able to change the same prices that ship could get somewhere else, if not more. And so I'm hopeful that it stays in Los Angeles, because I think the West Coast love having an option, much easier to fly to. But I don't know that that's actually going to wind up being the case for the Navigator. I would not be surprised if she did get relocated at some point. Not saying that's going to happen. I've not heard anything. But from what I've heard from just the number of guests on the ship and looking at the prices of them, it's really reasonably priced these days compared to everything else. I wouldn't be surprised if it got shifted around. I think Princess has a cruise out of there, Carnival's there, and I think that that's about it out of Los Angeles. The Hawaii sailings that you reference here, yeah, they're really expensive. The reason for that is interesting. So the only ship that really sails around Hawaii is the Pride of America. It is an NCL cruise line ship, and it sails just around Hawaii. And because of that, they've got to pay American taxes. Because it doesn't ever leave and go to a foreign country. It is American flagged. Their crew members, a lot of them are from the States, because they're already having to pay for people to pay the additional tax. So it's a really interesting thing. That's one reason why it's expensive. The other reason is if it's coming from Seattle or Vancouver, technically it'll come from Vancouver, or if it's going down to Australia, New Zealand, those are just really long sailings. Lots of sea days. I'd love to do it, but not quite yet. Yeah, if you've done, Beth, the Adventure and Explorer, it's going to be the same exact size. That is the same ship. It's just going to have a few different things on it. Bill's saying that there's a water slide that he really liked on Navigator of the Seas. I don't know the name of it either. I think that, to me, the sports here is kind of a wasted space on the ship. I've done water slides once on a cruise ship, and I think that was Wonder of the Seas when it came out. I was like, you know what? Let me try the slides on Wonder of the Seas. They look pretty cool. I did them, and that was it. That's the only time I think I've ever done them. George in Atlanta, Carnival Miracles does the 7-night sailing. So if you are on the West Coast looking for options, Carnival is over there, and it sounds like they do the longer sailings, hitting up some of those awesome places such as Mazatlan, Cabo, and Puerto Vallarta. I personally love Cabo. That is one of my favorite places in Mexico to go. I think it is a wonderful spot. If you love sea days, Craig, you can get some really good deals out there. So transatlantic, trans-Pacific cruises, whether it's going over the Atlantic or Pacific, the more sea days you have means the cheaper that cruise is going to be. So you can get an amazing per night discount on those transatlantic sailings. They will fill up quick. There's a lot of people that gravitate towards them. You get a lot of nights at sea for not that much money. And if you like sea days, you can have at it. I did 5 sea days on my South American trip that I did in December because one of our ports was canceled. And that was a long time for me. So I don't know that I'd be a fan of doing more than 5 because there is a bit of monotony that comes to it. And I kind of just want to stretch my legs a little bit. Not saying I'll never do a transatlantic or Pacific. I would love to do one, but they're like 14-night sailings. And I personally just don't have the time yet. But I would love to get over there one day, if nothing else, just to save some money, because you can get a ton of cruising in on those for a decent price. One of my dream trips, Craig, would be starting in Skagway, Alaska, coming back down to Seattle, Vancouver, heading to Hawaii, and then cruising around Australia and New Zealand. It takes about a month, a little over a month to do that, but I think that it would be a wonderful trip. That is something that I would totally sign up for. I think that'd be a really good time. But alas, that will not be happening anytime soon. And they only come at certain times of the year. If I could get one in like December, I might be able to swing it. But for the most part, not going to be able to do that. All right, well, my voice is starting to go. I mean, I can hear that I'm getting a little scratchy here. So I'm going to go ahead and say thank you all for joining the live stream today. I have missed being able to chat with you. I've just had so much going on that I haven't made it here, and it is always great to connect with you. And thank you for watching, for being followers of the channel. It means a lot to me, and I'm always grateful that you enjoy the content. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers that are out there and to those that have lost their fathers as well. Happy Father's Day. It is still a happy day to celebrate how great of a father we have had. With that, everybody, this is Brandon, the Weekend Cruiser. Hoping to see you on a weekend cruise soon.